And welcome to Abstract Essay, where ideas take shape, thoughts find depth, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest, helping women escape the illusions of corporate life and step into soul aligned freedom. No other than Miss Wendy Bay.
Hello, thank you so much for having me, Daniel. It's good to be back.
Welcome again, Miss Wendy, for the second time around. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Yes, so my name is Wendi Bay, and I like to call myself a corporate truth teller and a career liberation specialist. I help women to recognize that they are not background characters, they are main characters, and that they should leave toxic corporate workspaces and move into soul aligned work permanently, not just quit their job because they don't like their boss or because they don't like the company, but understand why they should move out of corporate toxic workspaces that siphon their energy, and why they should become the main character in their life and move into soul aligned work that serves a purpose for them and others around them, not for a corporate machine.
Miss Wendy Bay, thank you so much for empowering women all over the world. Hoping for more and more empowering advocacy like this. So let's talk about you're not a background character. Rewriting your career story with feminine power. Tell us, Miss Wendy, the advocacy is a powerful declaration. You are not a background character. What are the most common ways you see women unconsciously cast themselves in supporting roles in their own careers?
Well, I think most women are raised to put themselves second, right? We're raised to be nurturers. We're raised to always put ourselves last when it comes to our family, when it comes to our career, our work. And it's no different in corporate, especially. I think it's very difficult for a person, for a woman to be an individual and to be independent and to be a main character, because in the corporate world, you're expected to do what everybody else is doing. You're expected to do the same thing day in and day out, week after week, month after month, year after year. And for me, decade after decade, individuality is not upheld or encouraged in corporate, because the corporate machine has to make a profit. And so everybody has to be their own little wheel, or their own little, their little widget, right, in this huge
Yes.
corporate machine. And you can't stand out because of that. And so with women, especially, being that we're raised to be second, think of ourselves as second, put ourselves second, it's even worse. In the beginning, we feel like we're being valued and we're being given a seat at the table, but along the way, we cast ourselves into the background and we become the quiet workhorse. And we do that because that's what keeps the paycheck coming, and it's better for us to be the dependable one than to be the one that is loud, or the one that is, demanding, special things. And so it's very important for women to recognize that each one of us has our own individual talents and independence. And I know for me, it took me a while to understand that those natural talents that I have can be used to create a life outside of corporate. And so that's what women need to be able to do. They need to see their power within themselves, their individuality, and they need to embrace it.
Embrace it for sure. So, Miss Wendy, what does feminine power mean in this context? How is it distinct from simply mimicking traditional masculine leadership traits?
Well, I think for feminine power, it does not align with the corporate structure. when you look at a woman's monthly cycle, right, she goes through four different phases. She goes through her menstrual phase, which mirrors the earth, right? Mirrors Mother Gaia. That's your winter phase when you should be resting. And then she goes through her follicular phase, which is the spring when her body is gearing up to start creating. And then she goes through her ovulation phase, which in the earth, that's our summer phase, where you have all of this power and all of this energy that you can expend. And then she goes lastly through her luteal phase, which is where she gears back up to start resting again. And so a woman is not able to really honor her cycle when she's working in corporate, because in corporate, again, you have to do the same thing over and over, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. And so when you are pushing, especially as a woman, when you're pushing to do the same thing over and over, and you're not honoring those separate phases, you're dishonoring your cycle. And so now I just want to say that I don't believe that corporate is good for men either, but it's in a bit of a different context than women. But when you're a woman, you should be able to honor each one of those phases, and corporate is completely opposite of that. So if a woman is able to, now that I've gotten out of corporate, I can fully lean into each one of those phases and take advantage. It's like you have a superpower for each one, and I can fully take that superpower and use it for each phase, but you're not able to do that in corporate. And so you're stifling yourself. And it's unfortunate, but that's how it is in corporate for a woman.
Okay, very well said, Miss Wendy. Let's talk about rewriting a story implies that old one was not serving us. What is the default script about success that women are often given, and why does it lead a feeling like a background character?
I would say the default script would be do what everybody else is doing. You know, go to school, right? Go to college, graduate, choose a respectable trade to go into, which is usually serving some sort of corporate structure, machine. Keep your head down, don't disagree, don't be overly emotional, just, blend in the background and, get your paycheck, get married, have kids, do your 30, 40 years in the corporate structure, and then retire, and then you can do what you want to do. But at that point, you're too old, right? And you probably don't have the energy that you had when you were in corporate to actually live a fulfilling life now that you've retired. And so women need to be able to rewrite. They need to be able to take back control and not just toe the line and do what they're expected to do. Women are supposed to take their unique God given gifts and talents and use that to not only sustain themselves in this world, because we all need a way to do that, right? But they also need that to help others, right? So you get yourself out of that situation, you take care of yourself, you're living soul aligned work. Now you can help other women do that. Pay it
Mm,
forward.
yes, definitely. And Miss Wendy, on identifying and claiming power, many women struggle with imposter syndrome, which keeps them in the background. How does your approach help someone move from "I'm not ready" to "I am the author of this narrative"?
Well, I have to admit that when I am considering taking someone on as a client, I am looking at their attitude, and I am looking at what they're willing to actually do to make the change in their life. I've come across many women who have said, "Oh, I really want to get out. I really hate my job, and I really want to do something different, with my gifts and talents, but I can't. I can't do it. It's not possible." And so those I cannot convince a woman or anybody for that matter of what they can and can't do, right? What I can do is the woman that says, I want to get out and I can get out, I just don't know how. That is my client. I'm looking for the woman who has already in her mind determined what she wants in her life. Now, my content, on social media, on LinkedIn, on my website, perhaps it can help a woman that's in that first category get to that second category. But taking on a client, it's very important for her to already be in the can do category, because the work that she's going to have to do to get from can do to actually creating that plan and implementing that plan in her life is a lot of work, Daniel. So you have to already be in the can do attitude. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the woman who believes that she can do it, but just needs to be shown how.
Miss Wendy, can you share a story from your own life or clients about the pivotal moment they realized they were playing a background role, and what was the first step they took to change it?
I'll give my own example because many of my clients don't want me to use their story in
Yes.
in my podcast, my interviews. So I'll use my story personally. I think it was probably when I was near my 17th year in corporate. I left at about the 20-year mark, but at my 17th year in corporate, I had been promised by my management that I would be considered for a management role, and that if I worked hard that year, the next year was probably a shoe in for that management role, that promotion. And so when I had my performance review with my manager, he didn't say anything about what he had said the previous year about my promotion. So I asked him, well, okay, thank you. He gave me great. Oh, you're doing great, and this is wonderful, and that's wonderful, and keep up the good work and all that. But he didn't say a thing about the promotion. So I said, well, what about what you promised me last year about the, oh, well, yeah, that's not going to happen this year. And it was funny because he was the one that actually had said it, and he had purposefully not brought it up because he had notes from the previous year of things that we were discussing. So when I brought that up and he's, oh, that's, maybe next year type of thing, I said, okay. It was the type of thing where it's like, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. So I said, okay, Wendy, this is where you have to decide whether you're going to take another year of this or if you're going to move on. And so the next year, was when I started looking for another job. And when actually, no, very shortly after the interview is when I started looking for another job. And, it's not always easy and quick to find another job. And when I finally did, they were so shocked, when I put in my resignation. It was such a such a shocking thing. And I guess it's because I had been there for so long, and they probably felt that I never would leave. But I definitely felt like a background character, Daniel, because I said, listen, they're putting me last, and all these years I put myself last. No more. No more putting myself last. This is about me, right? Because it's all about them. No more. Not doing it anymore. I want better.
No. Yes.
Hmm.
Definitely be better. And you talk about feminine power as a strength. What are some undervalued traits like empathy, collaboration, or intuition that become superpowers when brought to the forefront of one's career?
Well, it's very true that women are, the time that you spend in corporate, you actually do use your feminine power. You do use your empathy. You do use your creativity, right? The problem is that it doesn't really serve you well. I know I'm very empathic naturally. And in the corporate arena, corporate workspace, um, if you are a healed empath, that's very important to point out, a healed empath. Um, it's very difficult for you to blend into a corporate workspace because how do I say it? The corporate workspace is very apathetic, right? It's about it's about keeping up appearances. It's about not really. It's about fake emotional intelligence. You know, when I was we had to take a training for emotional intelligence, and I thought that the training was wonderful. It was great, but I couldn't help but think, how are we going to apply this in our actual environment, in our work environment? Because it's the negativity, it's the toxicity that is actually rewarded. It is the competition, right, that is rewarded in the corporate workspace. It's not. It's about keeping people divided. You know, one thing for instance that corporate leadership does not like you to talk to each other about what you get paid. You know, and the reason that they don't want you to talk about that is because you're all getting paid so differently, even though you have the same credentials, even though you have the same skills and experience. And if you're a healed empath and you see that injustice and you see that inconsistency, it's inconsistent with your soul, you know, and also your creativity. When you try to think of new and better ways to do things, it's often stifled because again, you're just a little cog in the wheel. You're just a little widget in the major machine, and so those traits are not really, they're not really revered or encouraged, you know. So, as far as feminine power is concerned, I would say that we do use those superpowers in corporate, but I think we use them more to survive than we use them to actually help corporate. And once you get out of the corporate workspace, the superpowers that you have are limitless, and you'll find that not only are they limitless, but you can multitask them. You can use them in everyday life, in your work. You can use them everywhere, and you can create and you can help others. And that's the difference between using them in corporate and using them in your everyday life, when you don't have to, have your energy siphoned in corporate. I hope that makes sense.
Makes sense, Miss Wendy. Makes sense at all. So, as empowering women all over the world, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Well, I'm looking for that can-do woman, right? The one that is already, she's out there. Unfortunately, she's not the majority. She's not the majority, but she is out there, and those are the women that I'm looking for. So short term, those are the women I want to find, and those are the women that I want to help, and those are the women that I want to uh, lead and help me find more women like that. So those are my short term goals, to help them get out. And then long term, I see myself definitely becoming an author many times over. I have so many ideas and so many concepts that I want to bring into books. And I think often in this particular environment of corporate, it's easier for women to sort of, a lot of them obviously don't want their employer or HR or even their family to know that they're actually thinking about leaving corporate. And so if I can bring a lot of these concepts to a book as well, I think it would be easier to reach more women as well, because they'll be less fearful to actually look into changing their life. But the whole world doesn't have to know. And then they can do it at their own pace, and they can do it when as they're ready, and they can make a plan and stick to the plan and keep it quiet until they're ready to actually take that leap. So that's probably what I'll do. I'll reach out, find those women that are, a little braver than the average woman, who want to leave, help them, to inspire them to do what they want to do to help others, and then put the majority of my concepts into books that can reach anybody.
Very well said, Miss Wendy, and looking forward for more success. Excuse me. And tell us, what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
You can be whatever you want. I know that it sounds like a cliche, it sounds like something that you say at the end of a Disney movie. But you really can be whatever you want. It's about getting your mind right. And I always go back to my SPS framework when I'm talking to women, when we're thinking up a plan for them to get out of corporate. We look at the SPS framework, which is the spiritual, the practical, and the strategic. It's very important for her to get her mindset into why she should leave the corporate environment, and so that she doesn't come back. Once she fully understands that, and that takes a lot of spiritual work, right? Understanding why you shouldn't allow your energy to be siphoned by these toxic structures, and not just, oh, like I said before, I don't like my boss, I don't like my job. It's not about going to another company expecting things to get better, because all these corporations are run the exact same way. They are run to protect themselves, not to protect you, not to honor you, not to honor your independence or your individuality. So once she gets in her head spiritually what she should be doing and why she's doing it, then we can move into the actual creating the plan for her to get out and to never come back again.
Thank you for that empowering advice, Miss Wendy. Thank you so much. So, what is the common internal resistance that comes up with the women start to claim their power, and how can they navigate it?
Probably most common, I would say, would be the financial aspect. The majority of men, or I'm sorry, the majority of women and men obviously probably wouldn't be in their job if they were independently wealthy or if money was not a factor. So that's probably the biggest thing. Second would probably be family. They've got people depending on them. And they don't want to appear irresponsible or, whimsical. They want to appear like, they have their life under control, they have their mindset under control. And so but I really feel that getting the mindset is first, and then looking at the financial aspect is second. So many of these women have been in corporate just as long as I have, if not longer, and they have great looking 401ks. They have great looking savings accounts. So they can actually do this. They can actually do it, and they can take off time. They can use the money, use the funds to, start up their own business, become entrepreneurs. Um, and they can, but the first thing is to get their mindset right and to prepare them for how, their family might view them, their partner maybe view them. I don't encourage women who have, a lot of people that are responsible, like kids, or like maybe they're a caretaker or something like that. I don't really encourage them. Now, if they're adamant and that's what they want, obviously I do help. But the majority of the women that I come across are like me. They are in a position to put themselves first. They don't have kids, or even if they may not be married, and even if they are married, they have the freedom to make that decision for themselves. So we look at every part of their life to see if this is something that they can do responsibly. That's very important to me. I would never encourage a woman to, just get up and leave her job, without any plan or without getting her mind right. Never. I would never do that. And so I've had to turn away a couple women who were in situations that were a little, um, they wanted to do it, but they weren't really in a position to make that decision fully for themselves. And so I asked them to come back when they're in a position that is a bit more free. And so that's what basically what I have women do. I help them to navigate. I don't ask them to be irresponsible. I ask them to think about everyone else that's involved. But like I said, the majority of them, they're good. They have their money right, and but we just got to get their mind right. And so if they don't have their money right, that's another thing. It's not that I won't take them on as a client, but I make sure that we come up with a number that they can meet, and that number can be, it could be 5 months, that takes them to meet that number. It could be 2 years. It all depends individually on the woman, but it's about being responsible and strategic and practical as well, and realistic.
Yes, so Miss Wendy, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry and second season, my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well, geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and mental health 101, love letters in the third season, and movie 101 review and music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Wendy, if we could leave our audience or viewers with one mantra or affirmation to remind them they are the authors of their career, what would it be?
Definitely, the affirmation should be I am the main character of my life. I am the architect of my life, right? I make decisions for myself. I don't depend on corporate structures or toxic environments to define who I am. My salary does not define me, my title does not define me, and my job description does not define me. I am the main character of my life. Definitely.
Definitely, Miss Wendy Bay. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yes, so you can go to www.wendy, that's WENDI, Bay, BAY.com, and that is where you will find all of my social media links. You will find link to the ebook that I released a few weeks ago. You will find information on how to contact me if you are interested in a coaching session or a coaching program for that matter. I also have up all of my podcast interviews, and I also have digital products as well that are available if for women who are not really ready to get into the coaching, but they would like to regulate themselves while they're in corporate and detox themselves while they're in corporate. I also have digital products up there too that can help them. So go to my website, and you should be able to find something there that can help you.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Wendy Bay because if you support her for sure, more and more empowering advocacy for women. So, Miss Wendy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, Daniel. It was fun.
Yes, welcome, people. See you soon.
Bye bye.